Hey guys, it's Eric here at Farpoint Farms. Check it out. I've been cutting down a lot of trees lately, and a lot of my chainsaw blades have been taking a beating as a result. Now, I've tried sharpening with like those little round files you can get. Bought a kit of those, and to be honest with you, that didn't work out too well. So I went ahead and I used to take it to our local hardware store. For $5 they used to sharpen the chains. That's not a bad deal. You get 3 or 4 sharpenings out of each blade and then toss the thing and buy another set. Well, that worked fine, except they stopped doing that. And so I went looking to see what I could find that would offer me the same kind of cut that they were doing there. And I came up with this from Vevor. It's a tiny electric chainsaw sharpener, 120 volts. It's the model number 2002 KS. It takes 140 watts to operate it if you're off grid, just so you're aware of that. And let's go ahead and open her up, see what it's about, and we'll try to sharpen a blade. Get everything out of the box here, and we'll figure it all out once it's on the table. Okay, it does look like there's some setup involved. Something wrong with that. Got a little zip tie will cut. Okay, so it's kind of spring loaded, I see there. And we got a manual and some stuff to set it up. Now, I'm going to be installing this permanently on a bench up top, so I won't be installing it permanently today. Hopefully we can clamp it down or something like that. So got it looks like a sharpening stone here. This is a grinding wheel for chains gauge, depth gauge, and file for chains depth gauge. So that's kind of cool. I'll definitely keep that for forever. This thing here looks like it goes, unscrew that here. This goes through the base of this platform. And then we'll screw that back in there. Okay. So this will have to sit pretty far off the table, it looks like. Now it does have a cutting wheel already installed, but it looks like it comes with 2 other ones. My guess would be different sizes for different, yeah, that's a nice, and so they're different thicknesses. Well, that's kind of cool. And then much thicker one for probably larger chainsaws. And I like this, they even were kind enough to include 2 really good sized lag bolts to bolt that thing down. Cool. Well, let's take a look at a manual here. I've never sharpened a chainsaw other than with the wire or the file, and obviously that didn't work out too well for me. So I'm hoping that this thing won't be too complicated to set up. I'll make myself look like a fool here, but it's really not that hard when I am a fool. So, all right, let's see here. Use eye protection. Grinding wheel warnings. Do not use grinding wheel if it is chipped, cracked, or worn. Only use grinding wheels that fit an arbor of 7/8. Do not over tighten. Do not use a chainsaw sharpener without the cover in place. It has a little protective cover here, and it has some parts diagrams in here. It's pretty nice, actually. Ooh, there's even a light somewhere, maybe. It talks about an LED light, although that may not be this model. We'll see. Then it talks about replacing, how to mount the grinding wheel, and then operation. And here's where we're at. Clean chain before sharpening it. Wash off with non-flammable solvent. Do not get gasoline on the chain. All right, so the first thing I guess I need to do then is go wash that off with brake cleaner. So I'm going to do that right now. I had some old brake cleaner laying around, and it seems to have cleaned it. Just drying it off a little bit here. But you can see the towel's coming off pretty clean. This one got dulled. I hit the dirt, and that is all it takes. Like, you can cut an entire tree up, a good sized tree, and have no problem with dulling your chain, or very little dulling of the chain. That touch the ground for 1 second, even if there's no rocks, just the dirt, and it just kills them real fast. Cool, that looks pretty clean. I mean, it's not perfect, but I think for what we're doing here, it'll probably work. Cool. All right, so we've cleaned up our chain. Let's go ahead and see what else we got to do. I'll get the cord loose here. I'll get the camera closer in, and you'll get to see this thing in action whenever we figure out what that action looks like. Okay. All right, so that was step one, clean chain. Okay, so what we're doing here, if you can see, every other one of these you're going to cut. One faces this way, one faces that way. This blade is pretty well worn out from the looks of it here, but I'm going to move it down just to show you that when we're on the opposite, when we're there, we don't line up. We hit, right? But if we move it another one, right, there we are. And you can see we need to adjust out just a little bit. Pull back. And you just barely want to touch. Now, if this was a newer blade, this would be a better cut, but this blade has kind of had enough. Once you've got that, you can go ahead and screw this down, and that is going to lock that in place so that when we cut, we're not cutting off too much, right? All right, so here it is. You can see when I come down here with this blade, I'm just catching the edge, just catching that edge, just like that. And we can change the rake. And that's actually a much better rake, right? That matches the cut. So I've got this part already adjusted so that each lock hits exactly where I want it to. Now I've got that locked down. And now we can go ahead and plug it in and we'll make a cut. Now this is going to be a little bit time consuming. I mean, you want to take your time and make sure you do this right. Flip that on. All right, we're all plugged in. And I'll go ahead and turn it on. And I'm going to rotate that. Hopefully you can see. Let me get even closer in on that. Hopefully you can see that. Just taking the edge and sharpened that edge back up just a little bit. That's all we did. Now again, this blade is extremely worn. Probably needs to be chucked, honestly, looking at it now that I see it up close compared to a new blade. But still catching an edge, just a little bit of spark. We don't want to cut too much off because then you're just literally wasting chain, right? Okay, so that one's done. We want to go past this one because it's facing the opposite direction onto that one. Set our lock, come down, and that one is even more worn, so we'll make some adjustments on that. Loosen this up a little bit, push that chain back just a smidge till it just barely touches. A little bit more. There we go. I like that. Okay, and then we turn it back on. Let me push out just a little bit. Turn this on here. And we're ready to come down. And again, if I rotate that around, hopefully you can see nice sharp edge. So that's the process. There's not a ton to it. I'll be honest with you. I thought the setup would be a little more difficult, but it is not at all. Every other one. And what I'm going to do now is take a marker and mark this so that I know which ones I've sharpened here. I've got these RevMark markers here. So the first one we sharpened was this one, right? So I'm just going to paint that. You can see there, so that way I know when I've reached all the way around. Once I'm done, we flip the chain around and we can do the other side. And you can see a nice sharp edge there. This is simple. I can't believe I was paying money. Well, yeah, that's nice and sharp now. So that's it. I'm really impressed with how easy it is to sharpen blades. I had no idea. I never would have spent $5 a piece. Geez, well, they bring 4 blades down there. It's 20 bucks. You do that twice, that ends up being cheaper or more expensive than this thing is. So I'm pretty happy with it already. And I don't do a ton of tree cutting, but 3 or 4 times a year we have a relatively large tree come down, and about once a year we cut up a tree for firewood. So enough that I have 4 blades, and we've actually gone through them all, and we're ready to go through them again. I've got that new Wild Badger electric chainsaw that's really holding its own here on the farm too, so those chains will also need to be sharpened when they go bad as well. I'll leave a link to where you can get your own, and I'll see you next time.